her experience point that whatever the emotion, baggage, worries, all those stuff just went away, flew away. She felt the infinite number of cells in the body vibrating. She didn't use the word vibrating, but this is similar to my experience of awakening and following that. Each cells indicate the potential of that to express its mission, so to speak. This connected to Zen Kigen in Zen, pointing the full utilization of our ability. In that experience by itself, I felt like I was universe. There was no boundary. And that expression is very much the same with my awakening experience in 2000. I felt like I was in as big as the universe and there was no boundary. And the point about the boundary or the blockage, I used the word, used to have it inside my body. But from that awakening, I can easily go inside of my body, inner body sensation, as Eckhart Tolle talk about. And usually I don't find any blockage. Next line. She found she has the full responsibility of how she uses that energy. I think what it means is that since you have the way to see inside of you, the cells, how they function, and its potential, so you can address issues according to the need. And if I may say it this way, one of the reasons why Zen monks, accomplished ones, they tend to live long is that they don't have the boundary or blockage within their body and not much worries, no anxiety, which makes them to orchestrate how the energy flows. But that energy flow happens on its own, nature's way. I use the word laws of universe or laws of nature prevails. And since we are the result of that laws of nature or universe for our living, and that's miraculous accomplishment done by the nature. It's a miracle. So there's a relationship of realizing the effect of the laws of universe, but at the same time, if we screw up, for example, in suffering and cannot address what to do, then that would block the flow of energy. And for that reason, like she says, we are responsible. If we can have our inner body more transparent, then we should be able to address the issues, to be healthy and do whatever makes sense for us to live and live happily. Next line says, there are two types of people in this world. One is the type which bring us the energy and be able to share, and the other type of the people are the ones take away the energy from you. I think this was one of the experiences she had when she was in the hospital, and certain nurses are very mechanical, not paying attention to how she is going through this process. And there's other nurse or nurses who had the contact, communication, caring sense. So there are two different types of people in this world. I agree with that, unfortunately. And maybe I'm also very sensitive about it. So one of the issues I still have to address is how I deal with the ones who I may have to deal with, but they tend to take my energy away. So I haven't resolved that, and usually I feel vulnerable, and usually I stay out of that situation, but sometimes it's not feasible. So I accept it, and that's part of the issues for myself to address. And I know how to address with the background of Zen and meditation, which is basically do nothing, just be aware of it. But I think Shin and Myokonin's approach may have some interesting potential. And the basic idea is that with Nabu Amida Butsu, by letting the verb Amida to take over, so everything goes to Amida Buddha, or the laws of universe in my term, and therefore there's no self left, as if you don't need to deal with the issues because it's beyond your capability using the mind. So the mind becomes quiet, and therefore it's just the nature's way of what's going to happen. There's no argument with it. Next line says, to think or use the mind requires lots of energy. I totally agree with that. And it goes back to years, even 40, 50, 60 years ago. I always felt the bureaucracy and authoritarian type of the people, dealing with them, lots of energy. Also, filing tax return or fine print of the legal document, that takes lots of energy. And what it says is it consumes the energy using the mind to check the logic, think about the potential mistakes that you may make. So it takes so much energy. And what I found, especially at this age, 74 years old, is that I love to be with no mind. And maybe I can talk about that at the end. But the Saichi from Yokoni is saying that with Nembutsu, he feels relieved and be happy. And I can definitely relate to that. And what it means is that there is no need to use the mind. So the no mind, and that state is a very peaceful state where it doesn't require much energy for thinking or preparing what could go wrong and all of that. Let that be the case. And therefore that goes back to the discussion I had about the energy usage and how you may live your life much happily if you don't get into those situations that requires lots of energy dealing with certain type of people. And I totally agree with that. Next line. Sadness is something the body feels. I don't recall what setting that she mentioned about this. But if I can pick one idea out of this, what body feels, what our body feels is very important. One of the examples I often use is that when your mind is busy and the body or your stomach is hurting, you may push yourself to do some work and don't listen to the body. And that's not healthy at all. It creates the ulcer, maybe cancer, and you're not happy, you're pushing. That's not natural, and that shouldn't happen. So we need to be sensitive about it and be able to avoid getting into such situation. But once you are in that situation, then you still do your best, like the case of Amida. Let Amida take care of it. It's beyond what you can do with your mind, so let the mind be empty and go Namamida Butsu, for example. In the past, I often did just being quiet, calm and quiet, Samadhi. But I think Amida Buddha approach may be perhaps quicker, and I'm in the process of trying it out. Very interesting exploration here. Next line. Whatever happened in the past has nothing to do with your state of now. There's no power to influence it. So if I choose again, according to the example, repentance, delusion, whatever you cannot do anything about, let that be, or let the Amida to take care of it. Easy to say, but that's the basic point. And for that, we need to remember there's no mind. Don't use your mind. The mind tends to grab things and go back to ask questions like what if, what should have been or could have been, but so what? So in Zen, meditation, acceptance, Myokonin or Shin Buddhism, Amida to take over. We can get to the same result, but I feel there's some difference in nuances, maybe different for each person, but I'm interested in exploring that in future. Next line says, there's freedom. You can be liberated to not pick up the luggage left from the past. You have a choice to pick it up and play with it and be bothered and lose your sleep. That can happen. But you have a way to not do that. If you notice it, just let go. Meditate on Nembutsu, Namamida Butsu. No mind. It's beyond what mind can do to whatever happened in the past. Okay, you learned the lesson. Okay, learn the lesson and move on. Couple more lines. There's a way of having the noise in the brain to be quiet. That's very important. You have a choice. And what she said, I remember, is that once she knew the experiences of Nirvana, she made sure that she'll keep that channel open. It's physiologically or physically how you do it. Nobody knows perhaps, but that's the determination and awareness and making sure that you have the good habit developed to use it, to keep that going. Like in my case, I had this awakening and transparency with my body, no blockage, but going through some bad relationship and difficulties, you start to go like get tumbled up and get difficult, and then you lose. So you have to get back to the good routine of checking your whole body sensation and be in the now, meditate, go into or melt into the nature. There are various ways that I share that we can do that, so that now it's not get disturbing. Last is, don't be bothered with the tiny, stupid thing. Put your mind into some other direction. I think other direction, which way to go, depends on, it's the wisdom in a way. So you have to go through calm and quiet mind or no mind, so that you can figure out which is the right direction to go. That has to be done continuously, and therefore there's lots of things to be considered, like a breathing exercise, inner body sensation, melting into nature, the life scheduling, so that you don't put too much of heavy duty stuff in your daily schedule. There's a similar expression that I wrote here. What I just mentioned was like 15 or so items I shared. But there's an expression by Rinzai. Rinzai is the Zen master. And let's see if I can translate into English quickly. You guys, if you want to be in and out of life and death freely, then you, the listening person, you should realize that in reality there's no shape, form, root, or location, but it's alive. To realize that is important. Whatever they do to come up with any action leaves no trace, no footprint. So if you aim for something or follow something more and more, or seek for something more and more, then you get into the trouble. So just to keep with that basic, formless, rootless, lively sense of who you are, and have that as the core. That's Rinzai, a Zen monk. Maybe not a good translation, but they have some idea. Here's an interesting one. This is from the Lotus, Sutra, and there's a line which says, and this is a moment of awakening, I would imagine. So while Rinzai said something about this lively, formless stuff, what this tells is that state when something happened, awakening happened. So the line says, at that moment, without moving body, not using the mind, you go into Samadhi. When you are in Samadhi, the whole situation went through a big earthquake-like movement in 6 different ways, in 4 different directions, up and down. And then between your eyebrow, one light is spread out. And that light went out, spread out all over the universe. And you could see the whole. And I think I was writing here that earthquake sense is similar to my experience of awakening when I went through in Vipassana in the year 2000, when my body was moving up and down, and the light was like the sense of plasma that I felt. Although my eyes are closed, I could see the lights all over my mind space, the eye, and without moving any body. That's what I was, to go through that experience. And there are more examples from Dogen, but I'm not going to go into it any further. Okay, so the last one is about Saichi, talking about the breathing. I mentioned this in one of the videos, but here he's saying that the breath going out is Namu, giving, let go of yourself. The breath coming in is Amida Butsu, coming in. So in and out breathing is pleasant process, Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu. When the breath stops, also is Namida Butsu. And the last statement I found quite interesting is that I mentioned about no mind, and this is his way of expressing that, I believe. And it says, for Saichi, there's nothing. There's bliss, pleasantness, but there's nothing. Good and bad is gone. There's nothing left. What's nothing left is very comfortable, easy going. So everything is taken away by Namu Amida Butsu. And this is such a wonderful state, Namu Amida Butsu. I can relate to that. It doesn't happen, but I can possibly make it happen more often. I want to see how I may experiment this and see how that may affect my life. All connected to each other, from Gilbert Taylor, Rinzai, Dogen, Saichi, myself, and Lotus Sutra, something like that. So I think in summary what I said was that there are certain characteristics of the moment of awakening and how the mind and body functions in different expression by different people. But there's something in common that I feel that might indicate something. But beyond that, I don't think I'm making any judgment, but possibly a sign that we may appreciate, that you may find as we practice breathing exercise or Nembutsu exercise or meditation exercise, anything like that, or even just having your day quiet, like I did this evening, moving around, breathing and quiet, no mind, movement, and you have this blissful sensation that you can appreciate.